Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or a flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely natural,
And organic.
but strong enough to cover all your lice removal needs while being safe and effective. Our professional technicians are specially trained with our exclusive proven technique to successfully comb out head lice. We come right to your home at your convenience.
Whenever you want us.
We bring everything needed to perform a successful and complete comb out while eliminating your head lice. And we leave you with our exclusive complimentary products to use for the next 10 days following our treatment.
For free.
Our technicians also check all family members who have been exposed to lice. Please visit us on our website today at gotlice.co or feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 646-257-0121.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson, and you're watching the 505 on Racing Show. Welcome back. I know I'm glad to be back. Missed last week. Had some things in the daytime job that kind of caused me to miss. But you know, you got to do what you got to do some days. So, with that being said, we're here. We're here, and we're rocking and rolling. I fixed my collar there. It was a little messed up. My makeup artist isn't here today. But anything for a laugh. But yeah, it was a crazy week here on Long Island. For those of you who are not on Long Island, we were supposed to have some rain this morning and temperatures in the 50s. And we had snow this morning. I mean, there was snow. I mean, it melted right away, but we had snow. And I thought we were done with this snow, man. I am so tired of snow. It's just incredible. But it's over. The temperature's nice. Baseball starts. Racing starting. Or it has started in the local areas anyway, in the touring series. And this weekend will be the icebreaker at Thompson. What do they call it? They changed the name. It's a Thompson Motorsports Park now, I believe. The Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park. The icebreaker will mark the beginning of the season of that operation. I believe it's the 74th season, or they'll be in their 74th season of operation. Man, that's a long time ago. That's like 1940, I believe they started. Now, I know I'm old. I wasn't even born yet. 1940, 74 years, 74 seasons, continuous of that. So I'll tell you what, when a lot of racetracks across this country are closing up, this one's expanding. I'm looking forward to going this weekend and seeing all the improvements they've made. I saw when the garages that they were started at the World Series last year. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, yeah, snow, Vinny. It was. I don't know how you guys out there that delivering packages to the fine citizens of this country do it in the snow. I know I hated it when I was a UPS driver for that short period of time back in the early '80s. But you can't dress for snow. You know, once you're wet all day. But anyway, on a serious note, condolences to Richard Petty and Kyle Petty and their family on the loss of Linda Petty, who lost her battle with cancer. All 43 cars carried a decal at Martinsville in tribute of Linda Petty, the matriarch of stock car racing's winningest family. She passed away last Tuesday. Kind of sad. Linda Petty was one of those people who's been around this sport since I believe 1959. That's almost my whole lifetime. And she was, as they said, she was the one that, back in the day when, and I posted this in the social media today, back in the day when stock cars were stock cars and they were driven by men who drove them, wrecked them, put them back together. They didn't just get out of the wreck, grab their helmet and say, see you next week, and then show up with a brand new car that was put together by somebody else. They did this themselves. And Linda Petty used to line up, the kids in the back of the station wagon, and they ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And whoever kid was online there to get one, got one. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And that's how they grew up. Because racing back then, you didn't have jets and hauler drivers taking your equipment. You put it on an open trailer, you hitched it to the back of your pickup truck or your station wagon, you loaded your family in, you loaded the food and your parts, and off you went. Bobby Allison used to say, when he was headed to a racetrack, he used to call ahead and see what junkyard was in the area so he can get some needed parts. I mean, that's how it was back then. And I don't know. It's just one of the things that we look back at and you wonder, how the heck did they do it? But the schedule was a little different too. They kind of made their local area down in the Carolinas, and they kind of worked their way up north and worked their way along the northern edge of the United States border out to the West Coast, down and around. They were racing 50 to 60 times a year, sometimes 3 times in a week. It was like Kevin Basic said, it was old-time racing. Some of these kids that grew up in racing, that's all they knew. They grew up in the back of the car, the back of the truck, and when things were good for that team, maybe they might find a hotel room. But that's just how it was. That's just how it was back then. And now it's different. Racing is totally different. Corporate America's taken over. And they go for a certain look, and they go for a certain, the type of person. And that person they go for is a guy with money, or a guy that comes with money, or a guy or gal who brings a sponsor along that has money. It's no longer, in my opinion, talent. And let's not forget the politics that goes on with racing today. And I'm not going to get into that because that just would lead to no good. But like in any business or sport, there's politics. Look at pro football. When Joe Namath became partners in a bar, Pete Rozelle was going to ban him from football because he was partners in a bar. We don't want to have that, And now we have Michael Vick, who we all know what happened to him. He's going to be the starting quarterback on the Jets, and he's getting all these accolades. Back in the Pete Rozelle days, that guy would have been banished, and it would have been Michael who. But that's for a sports show here. That's not for racing. But it's different. Racing is so different today. It used to be you built a car, you showed up at the racetrack, you can race. Now you could do that on the local level. Basically if you got enough money and you got, I'm not going to say talent, but you have the convictions to go racing. You're a racer. You're a race car driver. Go to your local race supply place, buy a fire suit, get a helmet, maybe a pair of shoes, good pair of sneakers, because that's what they race, some of these guys, and you went racing. Now to go racing and you want to, let's say you want to move up. It's tough to move up. It's just, you don't just do it. You can't just go racing anymore. So we'll talk about that in another show at another time. But I know we have some things on my team that we're working on. And I just want to tell folks, a lot of people who thought I'd be at Thompson. I never said I'd be at Thompson. I knew that was one of the tracks I wasn't approved for. But my crew is working on, and probably as we speak, the 83B. As we know, I'm going to be the 83 on the Whelen Modified Tour and the events that they allow me to race based on my experience. And the 83B is going to be the Get Joe Experience car. The plan is to race some MRS races in the tour type mod, maybe some other, I don't want to call them outlaw events because I hate that term, but other events that are non-NASCAR with the 83B. I have probably one of the best car owners when it comes to dedication in the series. And don't get me wrong, I'm not putting down any of you guys that go out there and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go racing and go out and buy the best talent and have the big sponsors. I'm talking about a guy whose blood, sweat, and tears are in his race shop making it happen, and that's Wade Cole. And the man has become my friend, my mentor, and we ran into a little bit of a snag with some things, and all of a sudden, a fourth car comes out of the woodwork. So we're trying to get that ready for me so I could race some MRS races and get the needed experience I need. So that's what's going to be happening. I don't know if we're going to make that Waterford race in a couple of weeks. It's going to be close. We're still waiting on a motor for that, but we have the car. We have the people. But we're going to make it happen. We're going to try anyway. But that's where we stand right now with that. So we'll see how that goes. And I don't know. We'll see what's happening. What do you guys? You guys have some stuff going on here. The chat room's kind of quiet. Vinny's asking me if I'm getting excited about beginning my mod tour career. You know, Vin, I'll tell you what. Yes and no, and I got to be careful here. Yes, I am getting excited. We're going to be racing this year somewhere, someplace. But I think, and I want to put this, first of all, I want to thank NASCAR. Because NASCAR has a resume committee, and I'm not sure if they meet once a week, once a month, twice a month. I'm not sure when they meet, but I know they meet. And they talk about new drivers coming into series, not just touring series, but also the truck level, the nationwide level, the cup level. And they look at where this competitor has raced before, what types of cars, how well did he or she do, and they sit down and they discuss it. And each driver is responsible for providing NASCAR with a resume of all those things. You know, where did I race? What types of cars? Where did I start? Where did I finish? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I had said a couple of weeks ago that I had a long chat with Brett Bodine, and I'll tell you what, the guy was a professional. It's always tough when you have to give, I don't want to say bad news, because it wasn't bad news, it just wasn't what we expected. And that's okay, because he's doing his job. And you know what, if I was an experienced racer and they said, hey, they got this guy from Long Island, he never raced a modified before, he's going to come race with us, I would have some apprehensions. I said, oh man, this guy's going to tear the field up. So what NASCAR wants me to do is go get some experience in an open wheel car at a weekly track or another series, and that's what we're going to do. Now, I've been approved for a couple of locations so far, and as you can imagine, it's like Riverhead and Monadnock, because that's the type of racetracks I've raced on, the small ones. But they want me to get some experience on some of the larger tracks with an open wheel car, and I respect that. Like I said, it wasn't the news we wanted to hear when we got that phone call, but I have to respect NASCAR's decision in doing that. Because not only are they trying to protect other race teams and drivers and whatnot, but they're trying to protect me as well. And when after you hang up the phone, you're like, you know, wow, they took a pin and they popped that bubble, and they're like, man, how could they do that? And then you're stuck going through your head, well, what about this guy? What about that guy? What about this guy? And every situation is different. And as one person in the higher-ups at NASCAR, who shall remain nameless because I don't want to get that person in any kind of hot water, he said there was two ways that this went at the meeting. And it was, do we let Joe do these other tracks because he was a NASCAR official? Or do we not let Joe do these bigger racetracks because he was a NASCAR official? So it was a double-edged sword. And you know, when you sit back and think about that, and think about this. Let's say I show up at this Thompson. I've never raced a big track before. I show up at Thompson, International Speed Park, and everybody's going to say, whoa, man, I couldn't race Thompson, right? I had to race these other places. they're only letting him do that because he used to work for NASCAR, and he's going to get favors, and he's going to get this, and he's going to get that, and he's going to get the other thing. So that was one way that they had to look at. One thing they had to look at. The other thing they had to look at is, let's say they do let me go, and lap 1, turn 1, I put it in the fence and I take half the field with me. Then it goes back to bite NASCAR in the butt, because NASCAR then is going to be asked a lot of hard questions. You know, how did you let this happen? So I had a nice, like I said, a nice conversation with Brett Bodine about it, and we're going to do what we have to do on our end to get that experience. I'm confident, my car owner's confident, my crew's confident that we'll be able to make that happen. Because it was kind of funny. I've never raced a modified competitively, but I sat down because for those who know me, I keep track of everything. It's one of those things. I keep track. I have notes about notes and where I hide my notes and where I keep my notes, and it helps you write books. That's what it does. But I have notes, and one of the things that I kept track of was how many laps have I done in practicing a modified now, and I figured it out. It's only a couple of hundred. I think Roger Oxley, when he was my guest a few weeks back, we kind of alluded to that. And I probably have a couple hundred laps in a modified, albeit though not in competition. And Brett recognized that, but he said, as we all know, practice and race situations are totally different. And I have to agree that they are. You know, you're out in practice, you're kind of just doing your thing, you're cruising around, but when you're racing, there's a field full of cars and you know, those elusive points around the line, and people are going to push and bang and shove and all kinds of stuff now. I've driven just about everything that has wheels on it competitively except the modified. So we're going to do what we have to do. And like I said, I respect NASCAR's decision. And I know a couple of you folks out there are like, where's Joe? What did you do with the real Joe? This is it. You gotta pick your battles. And that wasn't a battle I wanted to pick, because after I sat back and talked to people in my circle about it, you know, I came to the conclusion that it's the right thing to do, and that maybe I should have did some of that last year. Maybe I should have did some MRS races. Maybe I should have did some SK races. Maybe I should have went to New Smyrna and did some laps. You know, hindsight's 20/20 vision. You know, you can never go backwards. So we're only going to look forward, and we're going to do what we need to do at the Wade Coles Racing, and do what has to be done to show everybody, including myself, that we could do this, and that will be an asset to the Wheeler Modified Tour, because I believe we will be. You know, I'm involved with a team that's ultimate professional people, and they do what they have to do to make it happen. So anyway, with that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some other things that are going on in the world of racing. We'll be back.
InRavio.com.
Hey Beatle fans, I'm Glenn Calderon.
And I'm Lucy Diamond.
Join us every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time for Beatles Across the Universe.
On InRavio.com.
Broadcasting to the world.
Catch us.
Hey, this is Gina Cotillo from The Gina Show. Come join us every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for celebrity interviews, Reality Reel with Billy Charles, funny stories with Brian Kinnear, and much, much more. The Gina Show can be found only on InRavio.com, broadcasting to the world. So come and catch us.
I will remember you.
back. Hey, also prayers go to the Venditti family as Seekonk Speedway's matriarch, Irene Venditti, passed away last week. I'd met her, I'd have to say, about 10 years ago. I worked a race. I was race director there for the Modified Tour. And when I had shown up, when we arrived at Seekonk Speedway, I was kind of surprised. First of all, I got lost going there. If you can imagine that, from the hotel to the racetrack, I got lost. And I was with the hauler driver. He was driving the hauler, the tour hauler, and we got lost. And I wouldn't say we got lost. We missed the exit, so we had to go all the way up and around. And you know, when you're towing a 53-foot hauler, it's kind of tough to just make U-turns. But we got there late. But I remember when we pulled in, we pitted in the parking lot of the shopping center next door. That was our pit area. And you know, walking over to the racetrack, the racetrack was kind of like round. And then there was a figure eight course in there, but there were ramps right before the X, and guys were telling me that the figure eight cars were Enduro-type four-cylinder race cars that they raced the figure eights on. And they ramped over the X. They didn't drive through it. I was like, man, if I was younger, I would love to try that. And then I spoke to my buddy Gravel, and he said he did that, and it was kind of awesome. But anyway, Irene Venditti passed away last week, and I'm sure that's a big loss to Seekonk Speedway up in Seekonk, Massachusetts. A lot of that stuff going on, a lot of stuff. Anyway, yeah. So, in Whelen Modified Tour, Icebreaker this weekend. A lot of stuff going on in the Whelen Modified Tour. It'll be this weekend at Thompson. And 2012 in the Whelen Modified Tour is interesting because a lot of changes, and I don't mean rule changes and car changes, drivers moving around, new drivers coming in. 2012 champ Doug Colby, as we know, moved to Mike Smirglio's, the third's car number 2, car vacated by Todd Zagerty, who I hear will be racing for Bill and Barbara Park at Riverhead Raceway here on Long Island. I don't know what the deal is with Todd. Reached out for him, wasn't able to get a response. But you know, and speaking of that, and I'm kind of going to divert here a little bit. Speaking of that, you know, there were a lot of folks, a lot of local folks, who were disappointed in Bill Park and Barbara Park's decision to bring an outsider to Riverhead to drive that car. And a lot of folks felt that there were local guys here on Long Island that could have driven that car, jumped in that seat, and made it happen. And here's my response to that. And I responded on the social media, Facebook and whatnot. My response to that is, A, did those so-called eligible or available drivers, did they ever approach Bill Park and say, hey, I'm available, I'd like to drive your race car, A, and B, this is what I bring to the table? I'm thinking not. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm thinking not. I'm not thinking that, and I'm not going to name all the names and the candidates and the people who said are eligible, but it went from seasoned veterans who drove all the race cars here on Long Island to rookie talent that, when I say rookie talent, they went from go-karts to a legend car and they want to go modified racing. But again, you know, it could work out. I mean, there's a couple of guys and gals who went from go-karts to modifieds, did very well here on Long Island. But here's what I want to throw out there. If you're a driver and you're looking for a ride, don't just tell your friend. You got to network yourself. You got to talk to car owners. You got to go and go up to the Bill Parks of the world and the Wayne Andersons here on Long Island and say, hey, I'm available. I want to drive your race car. Not because you want to drive it, because you're going to bring something to the table. Whether it's exposure, you bring a sponsor, something. Because it costs a lot of money to put a modified in a racetrack, and I'm starting to learn that. And actually, I'm not starting. I knew that, but it's hit home now. And when I was reading all the responses, and people are throwing out names of this guy should have drove the car, this guy, why are we bringing in outside talent? Let me tell you something. And I don't know how the deal was made, and it doesn't really matter, but if I'm Bill Park, I'm a former racer, I've raced for 30, 40 years, and I have top-notch equipment. I don't want to get out of the sport, but the bones aren't what they used to be, and the muscles and reflex aren't what they used to be. And Sundays were just pretty tough some days to walk around after doing 100 laps, 50 laps, or whatever we did at Riverhead. I'm going to seek out the best available guy. And maybe that best available guy called me. And I take a guy like Todd Szegedy, who's a champion in the Whelen Modified Tour, a proven winner on the Whelen Modified Tour, a class act, and actually did some nationwide racing. Why not? Why not bring a guy like that down here? Now, look at Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece came down from New England, and and he drove here on Long Island and did a very good job. Ted Christopher came down and he drove for Wayne Hinson. And it's funny, Teddy and I were sitting there and talking, and he missed some races at Riverhead because of the tour, his tour obligation. And we were sitting there, and Teddy goes, you know what? If I would have finished like 18th in the races I missed, I would have been the point champion. But didn't happen. But anyway, for those who were real upset about that, the Todd Szegedy getting the Bill Park ride, I think they should be happy that a driver of Todd Zegedy's caliber wants to come down to Long Island and race at Riverhead Raceway. I'm just saying, it's a fun place to race. There's a lot of good talent here on Long Island, and as a racer, you want to race against the best talent there is. You don't want to be the big fish in a little pond. Racing at Riverhead is tough enough because it's a tough place to race. It's tiny and stuff happens fast. But now you have another guy, an outsider, and just, you know what? Sharpen your pencils. Roll up your sleeves, tighten your belt, and hold on. Because that's what racing's all about. Whoever comes, whoever shows up, that's who you race with. And it's not one of these close-knit little groups, cliquish little thing. Oh, that guy, he's not from here. We don't want him to race here. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know why people got so upset. They should be happy. They should be happy that, like I said, a guy like, Todd Szegedy, Ryan Preece, Ted Christopher came down and raced here in Long Island. I just didn't understand that, and I hope people understood what I said when I responded back. That I didn't agree with that. I didn't agree with that. Just like there's a lot of things I don't agree with, but I think that one has merit. That has merit. But anyway, going back to what I was talking about. Changes on the Whelen Modified Tour. Like you said, the Doug Colby racing in the 2-car. 2008 champ Ted Christopher has combined his resources with Berkeley Racing to return the number 13 to the Tour. That was always a nice-looking car. 7-time Tour champ Mike Stefanik has reunited with car owner Ed Marchou in the number 1. He'll be racing part-time. Matty Hirschman has returned to the Tour after a 2-year absence, replacing Colby in the 52. Rookie contender Tommy Barrett Jr., who replaced Stefanik in the Hour Racing number 22, will be shooting for Rookie of the Year. Brian Chu has stepped down as a driver, and he has put Woody Pitkat in the number 88 Bush Chu Chevrolet racer. Hillbilly Racing, number 79, will have rookie Spencer Davis part-time on the Northern Tour while competing full-time in the Southern Tour. I don't know what happened with the Dave Brigatti deal that was looked like it was a done deal, but you know, there was. I know they were this far apart, and sometimes this much you could contend with. It's when you get down to the nitty gritty, you sometimes come to terms. We'll be talking to Dave about that, and I'll be seeing David Hill this weekend. Keith Rocco, the 2012 Rookie of the Year, will run all 8 Connecticut races for car owner John Rufano in the number 48 car. Melissa Fifield will contend for rookie honors as well in her family-owned number 01. So with this weekend's icebreaker, it'll mark the 30th season of the Whelen Modified Tour. And I'm telling you what, I think it's going to be a very competitive season. There hasn't been a rookie crop like this in the Tour in quite some time either. There's a handful of rookies coming in. Looking at my schedule, I don't think I'll be eligible for Rookie of the Year because I don't think I'll have enough races, which is not a bad thing because there's a lot of rookies. So let's see what 2015 brings, because hopefully by 2015 I'll be able to race everywhere. That's the plan for 2015, to race the full schedule in 2015 and a part-time schedule in 2014. And Rookie of the Year, I'll tell you what, that Rookie of the Year is a good deal. And I don't know what the dollar amounts are this year. It all depends on the Rookie of the Year sponsor. But the Rookie of the Year, not only does it pay at the end of the year a nice chunk of change, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Again, it depends on the sponsors. But the following season, on the entry blank, the present Rookie of the Year gets extra money in the payoff just for showing up and attempting to qualify, making a bona fide attempt to qualify. They get a certain amount of money. I think it's $300. So let's say you have 15 races. That's $4,500 on top of the $3, $4, $5,000 you got from making it. So that's a nice payday for being Rookie of the Year. You know, so I don't know. Matty Hirschman. I thought I said Matty Hirschman. In fact, I did actually, because I checked it off. I know WJ, myracenews.com, said that Matty Hirschman. Let me go back to my notes here, because maybe I did miss it, but I think I checked it off. I got notes here. I got to write stuff down because I forget stuff. Yeah, Matty Hirschman. Where's my note? I don't know. Maybe I did. I thought I did. Yeah, Matty Hirschman returned to the Tour after a 2-year absence, replacing Colby in the 52. I did say that. Huh. I thought I was going crazy. But yeah, it's all good. It's all good. All good. Southern Modified Tour was rained out at Caraway last weekend. They're heading to South Boston. Another place I liked going to. I liked South Boston. I worked there a couple of times at the Southern Tour. In fact, that was one of the races I worked at where we had the hurricane, we had the storm, and we did Bristol. We worked Bristol all week, and then they needed help at Caraway for the tour race. So we drove from Bristol to Caraway, which was like, it seemed to take forever. And we get there, we worked the event, and we got at the track at like 6 in the morning, and the show ended around 11. And I got a call from US Air, my airline of choice, and they said, your flight's canceled because of the storm, and we can get you out Wednesday. Now I got to go. I can't sit there. Where am I going to stay? You know, there was nowhere to stay because the Cup was in Bristol, so there was no hotels for miles and miles. So me and Russ, my buddy Russ, one of the tour officials, he lived in New Hampshire, so they told us to take the rental car. We drove through the night, and as we're going over the GW Bridge, we hear on the radio that they're closing the bridges in like a half hour. He said, Joe, I'm dropping you off in Queens, and I'm shooting up to the bridge. I got to get to New Hampshire. So he dropped me off at Shea Stadium. I'll never forget it. Here I am stuck in Shea Stadium. I'm on the street outside Shea Stadium and under the the elevated train, and I'm like, and the trains aren't running, so I can't take a train home. And here I am with all the other homeless people, with my duffel bag on wheels and my suitcase and my laptop, and I look like a homeless person. sitting on the sidewalk waiting for, trying to get somebody to come pick me up, which in the storm, it wasn't really happening. But finally I got somebody to come pick me up. You know, yeah. No, I don't do those things, Video Mike. I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. I am a good guy. I don't do that. I mean, somebody did try to pick me up, but, you know. But they realized I was dressed a little too nice to be like a homeless guy. Because I think I was even still in my NASCAR uniform, because I don't think we were able to change. Because we left, we went to the hotel and got our bags because we were supposed to stay overnight. But anyway, I'll never forget that. That was, you know, my buddy Russ. It was a fun trip, and you know, and we flew. I can't believe how fast we went. But then he ends up taking the rental car that was supposed to return to Bristol. He ends up taking it to Manchester Airport, New Hampshire, and the guy goes, "I think you're at the wrong place." That cost us a fortune for that rental car. But NASCAR paid. NASCAR paid. It was good. It was all good. But anyway, let's see. Martinsville. I watched the race like that. I don't think I got my head off the pillow all day Sunday. Watched the race in Martinsville, and I actually stayed awake for it. I didn't fall asleep. But somebody wrote on Facebook that it looked like a good crowd. I don't know what race he was watching, because there were a lot of empty seats. Now, I've gone to that Martinsville race. I probably went to that race 15 times. And I can remember the waiting list to get tickets when I finally got tickets. And then when I spoke to Clay Campbell, and he realized I was a NASCAR fan, I said, "Listen, get me some better tickets." And he did. He got me new seats. And I went to the spring and the fall race. And the place was always packed, jam-packed. And in the morning, I'd walk from the hotel to the racetrack, and then after the race, walk back. And I'd sit in my hotel room, I opened the windows, and I could see Route 220, I could see the road. And it wasn't until like 10 o'clock that they opened the road to two-way traffic. Now, I mean, there weren't a lot of people there. I don't know, folks. Like I said, I don't know what race they were watching, but there was a lot of empty seats there. And I'm not just talking about the ones in the backstretch. Turns 3 and 4, a lot of empty seats, a lot of low seats in the front stretch. You know, I know the weather played a part. I know, and I've been at Martinsville where I went in the race Saturday. It was snowed out, and we drove back over the mountain to our hotel in North Carolina, and you know, the other 3 people I were with thought I was nuts because there was no guardrail, and you know, you get close to the edge there, all you look down and all you saw was the valley, and we're driving in the snow. But then the next day was nice out, but you know, and I'm sure, like I said, you know, and the rain scared the walk-up, so yeah, it did. And then what's funny but not funny is years ago there were no walk-ups. If you didn't have a ticket, you were going to stand outside and listen. You know, Video Mike. Yes, Video Mike, he did, and you could do that. So yes, and that's a good deal. But let's see. As Jay Slice is saying, he thinks it's funny that tracks are taking seats out to sell them at the low price. Yeah, they do some stuff with it because, you know, I was talking to Clay Campbell a couple of years back when I first noticed like the billboards and the banners covering the seats. And he said to me, he goes, "You know, Joe," he goes, "we sell those seats last. And if they're not sold," he goes, "if I take the number of seats that are in that section and I put the banner over it, I'm making more money for that advertising and for if I sold the seats outright." So the racetrack's not losing any money on it. And you know what? And it's a business, folks. It's a business, and that's what happens. People don't want to realize. They don't want to admit to the fact that, hey, racetrack owners and promoters and operators are in business to make money. Whether it's the local short track in your hometown or Daytona International Speedway, they're there to make money. They're there to put on a show, and at the end of the day, pay all the bills, pay all the purses and the insurance and the electric and the taxes and payroll, and at the end, when it's all done, they still hope to have a pile of cash for themselves. You know, And I know a lot of people, I know a lot of people who get upset at racetrack promoters, that they're only in it for the money. Hello? Why not? Do they care about racing? Most do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in that business. But a good racetrack operator also has other avenues that they get revenue from. Because let's face it, you take a weekly short track, whether it's on Long Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Texas, Oregon, wherever it is, your window of opportunity to make money is short. You're not racing 52 weeks out of the year. In some cases, you're not even racing 26 weeks out of the year. So let's take an average, doing 24 races a year, let's say. You have 3 rainouts. 1/8 of your revenue potential is lost. 1/8. That's like, now take a person who has a regular job. You and me, we work a regular. And let's say we're going to make, I don't know, $80,000 a year. At the end of the year, because there was some bad situations, we only made 7. We lost 10 grand. You got to look at it that way. You got to look at it that way. And it's not, it's, I don't know. How do I put this? It's not that, I know a lot of people saying, NASCAR should give bigger purses, NASCAR should do this, NASCAR should do that, NASCAR doesn't pay the purses. Come on. NASCAR is a sanctioning body that governs the event. Just like the officials in NFL and hockey and baseball, they just run it. They don't pay, they don't come up with the purses. Oh, they need more money. The local guys need more money. When you break it down, it's all relative. From the highest level, from the Sprint Cup level to the local short track that has, street stocks and whatnot, and late models or whatever they have there. They don't, when I say they, NASCAR is not paying them. The check might come from NASCAR because that promoter has to give NASCAR the money or whatever, and it goes to the awards part of the thing, and they get a check in the mail. Some racetracks give you a check right there when you're at the end of the night. Some racetracks, very few, far between, pay you cash. And then send you that little 1099 at the end of the year that you need to claim and pay taxes on. So, what happens with that is now you have these promoters who, like I said, they need to make money. Now, it's up to us as competitors to treat our race team as a business, unless we have a cornucopia of cash and we want to do that because it's fun, which some people do. Speed costs money, and the more money you have, the faster you go, and the faster you go, the more money you make, and it's a snowball. And that's where that's at. And I just get, I don't know, I've been on all sides of the fence with racing. I've been a crew guy, a competitor, a car owner. I've been an official. I've been a head official. I've been a race director. I've done just about every job there is to do as an official, except tear down motors, because I don't know how. It's kind of funny, but I don't. I even promoted a race back in, I'm going to say 79, 80. And it wasn't easy. But, anyway, we're going to take a break. I think I missed one. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in racing today. We'll be back.
Hey, this is your good buddies Bruce and Disco from the Glory Days Show, which can be seen every Sunday morning starting at 10 a.m. here in the East.
We have sports highlights, movie reviews, and celebrity interviews.
We have out-of-town correspondents, Timmy the Trotter giving us horse racing tips, and at the end of every show, Mr. B does a live song.
The Glory Days Show, found only on radio.com, broadcasting to the world. Catch us.
Hey, we're back. Yes, I keep losing my chat room, so I just want to let you folks know. I know Kevin was talking about the fire department drill teams and the motors and what they cost, and it's a lot of money. You know, and some of those motors are comparable to a Tour-type modified engine, and they start at $30,000. And depending on what you want, what you get, and you want all the fancy stuff, you can go up to $50,000. And the fire department guys, they race for trophies, bragging rights. You know, that's a lot of money to spend on bragging. But that's what they do. That's what, you know. It all started years and years ago when you know, they first had farms and you had the little fire truck, horse-drawn thing, and the bucket brigade, and then all the fire departments got there. Let's see who's the best, and it just grew from that. And the motorized stuff came to be. And I can remember when I was first going to these things in the '60s, and the B rigs, as they call them, which would be like a limited late model in the racing circuits. The B rigs, they were old '56 Fords and, you know, trucks, pickup trucks, or fire trucks, and Chevys and GMCs, and then they just evolved, and then they came out with the C rig. The C rig is like it's like a modified, you know. And you look at those things and what they do, and one of these days I'll play one of Kevin's videos that he's given me to show you what these things do if you don't know. But it's you know, and I was a volunteer fireman in Babylon Village for a little while until I tore up my ACL. Much to the displeasure of UPS, because I had the summer off. And I was able to sit on the deck and sit by the pool and sip on a Coors Light, hop in the pool, float around, and it was all good. But when I came back, the knee just wasn't right. So between the left knee not being right and the right ankle not being right, it was best that Joe not be a firefighter anymore. That's all right, but we could race, though. We could race. Anyway, before I forget, Cher Lloyd is coming to the Paramount Theater in Huntington, Long Island, New York, Sunday, April 6th at 8 p.m. And Radio's got your tickets. Click on the contest tab to win. And you can also log on to ParamountNewYork.com for a complete listing of all shows at the Paramount Theater. So you got to be in it to win it. And I know one of our faithful viewers, I believe, won tickets to I guess the Beatle tribute thing. Yeah, in the Marshall Tucker band. So, you know, it's all good. You know, it's all good. So you got to be in it to win. And so again, Radio's got your tickets. And if you do go to see a venue at the Paramount when you're going, let them know you heard about it here at InRavio. All right. Anyway, so going back to racing and cost and dollars and cents and seats, I saw there was some chat about Dover and how they were going to add seats and they didn't. And you know what was happening. And you look at pictures of Bristol and old videos of Bristol from the 70s and 80s, and now you look at it now. All those extra seats They didn't just build these seats because they said, you know what, let's add more seats because more people will come. No, the waiting list to get seats was so long, and people were waiting years. I mean, it was like NFL season tickets. You put them in your will. I will my tickets to whoever. So they added seats. Like Daytona did. Daytona added. I can remember when there was only the turn 2 tower in the backstretch. That was it. It was just kind of tower was sitting there by itself. Or the second tier in the front chest was only where the control tower was and a couple of suites. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger because the waiting list was so long. Now what's happening, and some of these folks want to take seats down because they're not full. And they could, better utilize those. I don't know, better utilize the tickets. But, what are you guys talking about? So many things, maybe. See, sometimes you walk into the middle of a conversation. If I read this correctly, they're saying that the declining attendance coincides with Toyota coming into racing. I don't know if that's true. And I could maybe get into the middle of this. But anyway. But it's not, again, the other thing that I see this happen, and this isn't NASCAR's fault, it's the greedy promoters, some of them, and the greedy hotel operators, and the greedy restaurant people, and the greedy rental-car people, and the greedy airlines. All of a sudden, they raised prices. Now I'm going to tell you, and I know I probably said this before, I stayed at a Days Inn on International Speedway Boulevard for Speed Weeks. And I was there for the shootout, so I stayed there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It was like 79 a night. Wednesday, it went up to 259. Thursday, it was 299. Friday, it was 399. Saturday, it was 499. Sunday. It was the same daggone room in a little Days Inn. Nothing fancy. You pulled up your car, the door was in front of you. It was a motel. It wasn't even a hotel, multi-stories with a jacuzzi and a hot tub. It was a room and a shower. This is what happened. People can't afford to go. And the other thing that some of these racetracks did is you had to buy a package for the whole weekend. What if I didn't want to go Friday, right? What if I didn't go? What if I just wanted to see the Cup? Well, that's it. Sorry, too bad, so sad. You had to buy a package. And my package at Daytona was close to $1,000 for 2 tickets. I wasn't doing that. Because, I didn't go to the truck race at Daytona because I was at New Smyrna. And I only started going to the nationwide race because I had the ticket. And you had to get 3, at least at that time in that package. You had to get 3 of the 4. So you did Thursday, you did Saturday, you did Sunday. And but this is what's happened. They've priced, when I say they, the promoters and the track operators have priced the tickets so high, and people can't afford it. People just can't afford it. Because you throw on top of it, you got to get there, you got to stay there, and then these hotels, you got to guarantee 3 nights or 5 nights, whatever it is, and when they sell this deal to you, and the room rate, they show the room, for argument's sake, it's $199. Well, let's do it. Well, that's the average and that's when you look at the fine print, that's when you work it out for the 5 days, it's $1,000. Because a couple of nights before it's cheaper, and a couple of nights after it's more expensive. And Kevin, you're right. Kevin, Long Island Need for Speed, it's greed. It's greed. The restaurants who have special menus, all of a sudden special menus when the prices are bumped up and the portions are smaller. Not right. It's just not right. And parking, what it costs to park at some of these events. And when I go to Daytona, I park at the high school. I believe it's not Nova Road, it's Clyde Morris. Clyde Morris and International Speedway, it's a high school. It was the last time I went there, not last year, I did go last year. It was like $20 to park. It's 1.2 miles from the Speedway. And I would park there and would walk. And And you knew the money went to the kids. And I've been parking there for 20 years. And I can remember talking to the guy who was in charge of it. And I said, you know, I'll keep coming here, and if you keep doing this. And he goes, well, what they do is all the organizations, the clubs and the organizations, sport teams, participate, and they split the money. And this is what they do. Let's say 100 kids show up to work it, and 10 are from the football team. The football team gets 10% of the money. 20 are from the band. The band gets 20% of the money. So they divide the money. Now, I'm sure they got to go a kick into the staff and whatnot, into the school district. But I'd rather give the money to those guys, the $20, than pay $75 at the Volusia Mall across the street. That if you wanted to go to the mall to go shopping, you had to tell them, I'm not here for the race, I'm here to go shopping in the mall. They give you a 1 hour, a stick it, that one on your windshield, 1 hour, with a date stamp, boom, 1 hour. Don't be 61 minutes, they will tell you. I didn't find that out for myself, but I saw somebody else, and the guy was like flipping out. He was on his way to his car, and there's the flatbed sucking it up because he was like 3 minutes over his hour. It was a scam, if you ask me. I think they were all in on it, but that's besides the point. But anyway, so this is what's happening. People can't afford to go. They can't afford to go to some of these races, between the tickets, the transportation, the lodge, everything. They just can't afford to go, and it's just not right. It's I don't know. You know, some people are saying it could be, you know, the cars and then Video Mike says supply and demand. And you know what? Here's what I think they should do. First of all, they need to listen to the fans. They need to listen, because bottom line is, without the fans, if the seats are empty, if you have 100,000 seats and 30,000 are empty, and I learned this from Donald Honig, owner of Townsend Speedway. This is what he said to me today. I'm looking at the grandstand. I'm walking out, I'm standing there waiting for the modified tourists to go. I'm ready to go in the tower. And Donald Honig says, I says to Donald, I said, Donald, you got a nice crowd there. Yeah, it's a really nice crowd. He goes, I lost 200,000 today. I said, Donald, how could you lose? What do you mean you lost 200? He goes, I thought I was going to make 1.2 million. I only made $1 million. Look at all these people. They got coats, they got blankets, they're taking up seats that butts could be in. And I was like, I couldn't believe that he said that. Because he thought he was going to make 1.2 million and he only made $1 million that day. And I'm making that number up. I don't remember what the exact number was, but that's how he looked at it. He says, I thought I was going to make X, I only made Y, so I lost Z. I was like, whoa. I couldn't believe it. But as a promoter, you know, in a business plan, and I've been in business most of my life. Let's see, I've been in business, some kind of business, in 25, almost 40 years. I am that old. And there's a business plan. You want to make X. The plan is to make X. Whether it was back in my Dairy Bond days as a kid, my UPS days as an account manager, or my bond days now. You have a plan. There's a business plan. Sometimes it's realistic, sometimes it's not. And just like with racing, again, I'm going to reiterate, it's a business. Whether you're a promoter, whether you're a track operator, whether you're a car owner, it's a business. And you got to look at this business. You got to look at it in that sense. You got to say, all right, folks, listen, you got to sit down with your people. You got to sit down with a pen and paper. And you got to say, all right, there's, let's say as a car owner, you're going to sit down and say, well, we're going to be in 20 races. And we got to buy 8 tires in 20 races. Which is a lot of races. A lot of times, 160 tires and they're $150 a piece. So, you know, so that's like $8,000. And then you need fuel. It's 50 gallons of fuel. And on and on and on. And then you look at it, then you go, okay, now this is what we need to bring in. Whether we bring it in from winnings or we bring it in from sponsorship. But to break even, we need to bring this amount in. It's a business plan. Now, as a race car team owner, you can tweak your business plan because let's say you didn't bring in what you need to bring in, you could say, I'm going to miss next week. You probably won't, but you could say that. As a track operator, you think you're going to get 100,000 people in the stands, and you're paying purses and insurance and payroll and every other doggone thing, and, you know, an hour before, 5 minutes before the event starts, you only have 50,000 people in the stands. You can't say, let's do this next week. You got to go with it. You got to go with it. And sometimes you might lose your shirt that weekend. Sometimes that might be lucrative. It's a crapshoot. And then you get that precipitation coming down. You got a full grandstand worth of people, and you have jet dryers out or blowers out or cars on the racetrack trying to keep it dry. And you're sitting there and you're like, I got to get this in. Gotta. Because if you don't, all that money that you took in for those tickets, which you probably already spent a good chunk of it, is lost. And that's what happens. That's just what happens. And guys are talking about drugs here. And even as a team owner, you drive 100 miles to a venue, put gas in your hauler, you buy your tires and get there and you're rained out. It might get rescheduled, might not. You don't get that money back that you spent to go there. It's lost. Spends. It's part of doing business. Okay? I don't know. No, you guys talking about free parking? There's free parking where? No. See, what is Kevin saying? Free parking at the Christmas store. Oh, you can see the races for free. You really can't, though. You know, you can't. You might see parts of the racetrack from that new Christmas tree store. You know, it's, I don't know. I don't totally agree with that. I don't know. And it's, and you guys calling it Xmas. It's really Christmas. I'm a 4th degree night at Columbus, and it's Christmas. And there's a reason for that. But anyway, that's not a religious show, but I just wanted to throw that out there, folks. It's Christmas, not Xmas. Anyway, I don't know how it came. Who called it Xmas? I don't know. That's a whole other story. I'll do that on a religious show one day. But you know, can you see the whole track? I don't know. Can you see the whole track? Because I'm thinking the press box blocks a good portion. You could see it from the roof of the Christmas tree store, but I don't think you can see it from the parking lot. I'm just saying. I know people used to sit on top of the dirt that they had piled up there, but you know what? You're going to get that no matter what. You know, you're going to get that no matter what. You know, it's, I don't know. But it's just the nature of the beast, the way the property was laid out. You know, what should have been done over the years is they should have put something in the fence where it wasn't just a chain link fence that you could look through. And I don't mean like broken down pieces of plywood that are rotted away, and like in the backstretch against that fence that's in the driveway coming in. Sometimes, you know, it looks, you know, kind of nasty. You know, and I'm not saying, Riverhead, but there's some racetracks I've seen that they put a plank so you can't see the racetrack, you know, from there. But again, that's, you know, if you want to sit in a parking lot on top of a dirt mound and watch the races, God bless you. You know, I mean, I think my old buddy Mike Fields might go out there, because I think I banned him from coming to the races, from signing into the pits anyway. Man, he was one of the guys. Mike Fields, I used to do a speed racing radio show with him back at the turn of the century. Right? So it seems like back in, I guess it was 2000, 2001, 2, with Jeff Bresler, Ricky Miller, and myself. And here's a guy, and not to pick on him, because I'm not saying anything that isn't public knowledge. Here's a guy who I believe learned his lesson, and as a columnist, He had a column in one of the local racer papers. He was all about the shock of what he wrote. And I could care less what he wrote. But he wrote two things that upset the heck out of me. And one was, there was a guy who won his first feature event in a lower division. The guy was racing for like 20 years, finally wins a race. You would think in the guy's column the following week, he'd have a good portion of his story about that. But he wanted to bash another competitor in another division, so he dedicated the column to bashing this one race team. And as an afterthought at the end, oh, and by the way, Scott Seppi won his first career feature ever. And I was upset by that. I blasted him. I really did. I told him there was enough negativity going on at this local racetrack that I didn't need any more, and I didn't need him to go writing stories about it. Now, the other thing he did to me was this. We're in Martinsville. And he came. I had extra tickets. I was like, what was I thinking? But he came. And we were talking about the tracks, and it was his first time at Martinsville. We're talking about things. And we were talking about our local racetrack, and he said to me, if you owned Riverhead Raceway, what would you do different? Now, to me, it's an off-the-record conversation. I said, well, what I would do, and I'll tell you now, because, you can go read the column back in 2001, I think it was, 2002. I said, well, I would put the pit gate for teams to come in at the other end of the pits. Two gates, that's the end gate. That serves two purposes. One, it doesn't jam up the driveway coming in. And you come in, you don't have to make this turnaround out in the junk. You could go turn right into the pits. That's number one. Number two, I would park the trucks and haulers on an angle. I'm like, so why would you do that? I would do that because of this. Back in that day, when I was the head guy, we had 150 cars in 5 divisions. Yeah, 5 divisions. And if the legends were there, we had 190 race cars. Some people didn't make the show. They didn't qualify. They needed to go home. If they chose to. They didn't need to go home. They wanted to. The way the haulers are parked straight in, some of these oversized trailers, why you need a 53-foot double stacker to race your local racetrack when your shop is 3 miles away, that's choices. No, it's not a choice I would make. You can't get out once you're in. So, if you're parked on an angle, you could back out, go out, and you go out the out gate. Real simple. So I had another 10 or 15 things that I said I would change off the record, I thought. Next thing I know, he dedicates a column to it. I get a call from the owners and promoters and operators of the racetrack, upset with me, and rightfully so. So I got to tell them, I says, what are you talking about? Because I didn't get my paper. I used to get my racer paper. The whole world got theirs on Tuesday. Mine came on Thursday or Friday. So I don't know that this is in there yet. So here he goes, and I get a call from the owners, and they're lambasting me. I mean, they're beating me with barbed wire. Next thing I know, they hang up on me. I'm like, holy crap, I gotta get this paper. So I call around, I finally found it, and I read this, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I call him up, and he's like, wow, no, they were good ideas. I said, you just made me look like a jerk. So now I called them back, I said, listen, I said, this guy took some creative license with me, because he asked me about those things. I said, yeah, no, that'd be a good idea. Well, I don't know if everybody watched The Godfather, where they had the guy testifying before the Senate committee, and his brother shows up, so he has to change his story a little bit. He was like, yeah, the FBI guys, the Michael Corleone do this, I made it up. So I call this guy, Mike Field, up. I said, Mike, you better call these people up, and you better stick to my story, which he did, but they still were not happy, and they still didn't make those changes. I think that the only thing they did change was where to put the tire compound. was the tire compound needed to be in the middle of the racetrack. That only took 10 years to do, because I thought, I needed to be in the middle of the racetrack, in the pit area. And I still think the parts truck should be in the middle of the pit area too, so it's equal distance for all the teams. So just my opinion. But they're doing a good job there, I got to admit. In fact, Mike Cappiello, one of the head guys, or chief steward at the local racetrack, Riverhead Racetrack, him and I have been discussing him being a guest on our show. Mike worked with me when I was the chief steward over there on the ramp. Mike, a great guy. I'm not sure. He's away traveling. When he gets back, we're going to lock into a date. And he's going to come on, and we're going to talk about the upcoming season. And just so you folks know, it's going to be all positive. So if any of you guys think you're going to take this opportunity to blast Mike Cappiello and his officiating and his team and all that kind of stuff, don't log in that night, because you will be ignored. It's all positive. And I assured him of that. So don't look at it. Don't do to him what Mike feels it to me before I was a co-host on Speed Racing Radio, where he had people calling in to blast me. And he put on his website, Joe will be on if you had to blast them. But anyway, we're going to take a break. I think I'm overdue for a break. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Martinsville and some of the stuff that went on there. We'll be back.
InRavio.com.
Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or a flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely natural
And organic.
but strong enough to cover all your lice removal needs while being safe and effective. Our professional technicians are specially trained with our exclusive proven technique to successfully comb out head lice. We come right to your home at your convenience.
Whenever you want us.
We bring everything needed to perform a successful and complete comb out while eliminating your head lice. And we leave you with our exclusive complimentary products to use for the next 10 days following our treatment.
For free.
Our technicians also check all family members who have been exposed to lice. Please visit us on our website today at gotlice.co or feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 646-257-0121.
Hey, Beatle fans, I'm Glenn Calderon.
And I'm Lucy Diamond.
Join us every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time for Beatles Across the Universe.
On InRavio.com.
Broadcasting to the world.
Catch us.
Hey, we're back. Yeah, I know Kevin Basic, Long Lady for Speed, was talking about the old timers and trying to get them some action at the racetrack, the local track. And I'll tell you what, I think that would be awesome. I think it would be a good idea. And I think what should be done is the car should be parked at a midway so people could, throughout the evening, go by, see them, check them out, and things of that nature. And then let them put out, let them do 10, 12 laps out there. And it's hard to tell a racer in a race car not to race, or just do parade laps at a nice speed. But I would love to see that. I would love to have the opportunity to drive one of those old cars around the racetrack. It would be fun. I think it would be fun anyway. But then again, I would drive anything, as people will know. Anyway, Martinsville. Ah, yes, Martinsville. Well, before we talk about Martinsville, I want to mention just something real quick. The 39 car in the Nationwide Series was penalized during last week's event at the Auto Club Speedway during post-race inspection. The 39 car committed what they call a P3 level penalty for body height. The crew chief, Kevin Strump was, Kevin Starr was fined 10 grand, and car chief Tim Brown was put on probation, which I think probation it's kind of weird because I'm on lifetime probation from a racetrack. I'm not going to say which one. You could probably figure it out. I'm on lifetime probation for one of the racetracks, and I don't know how I get off it. I don't know what you do to get off lifetime probation. It's not like I'm a murderer, that I did, 25 to life, and after 30 years they let me out because I, went to the parole board and saying, yes, I did it. I atoned for my sins. I'm on lifetime probation. I don't even know why. But because the letter was not specific. Well, it was specific, but it was for things I didn't do. Like, I got that letter 6 months later. The season ended, and I get this letter in February. Oh, by the way, you're on lifetime probation. But I think that had to do primarily with the former chief steward, Jim Maggio, who I've not seen or heard of since he lied to NASCAR about his position at Riverhead and lied to NASCAR that he had the Cromity's permission to leave there and go seek out a position on the Whelen Modified Tour. NASCAR does not like taking officials from the weekly series. They don't like doing that when they put them in a position. They'll take a former official from a weekly or race team guy, but they don't take one of the top guys away from the track and do that. And he led NASCAR to believe that he spoke to them and they were okay with it. And when NASCAR called them, they had no knowledge of the conversation. So therefore, he was let go from his duties at Riverhead Raceway, and NASCAR did not take him on. Maybe down the road when the powers to be at NASCAR change, maybe he can come in again. But in my opinion, that would be a mistake. But anyway, I don't know why I went into that. But anyway, so this is one of those P3 levels, and it could be a suspension and or a $10,000 fine. And I believe this crew chief just got a $10,000 fine. So I think that was the first public knowledge that I have of this new penalty program. Now I know they took some trucks back from Martinsville back to the R&D Center to check them out, but I haven't heard anything about that. They won't do anything with those things. They probably looked at them today, tomorrow, something will come out Wednesday. But anyway, Martinsville. It's no secret that I'm a Richard Petty fan. Been a Richard Petty fan my whole life. The first guy I ever rooted for was Richard Petty, and that was back in the mid-'60s when I first started watching racing on Wide World of Sports. And they only showed, certain races, and they only showed certain parts of certain races. And that's back when Richard Petty was winning like everything. So why, it'd be like rooting for Jimmy Johnson. You want to root for a guy that's going to win, or Dale Earnhardt Jr., whatever. Today. And I always liked Richard Petty. I always liked his cars. I always liked whoever drove for him, whether it was Bobby Hamilton, John Andretti, whoever it may have been over the years. And this Marcos Ambrose and Eric Almirola are doing awesome. Here at Martinsville, Marcos Ambrose led 22 laps and finished 5th. Eric Almirola was 8th at Bristol. And that's a tough thing to do, And we all know that the Richard Petty Motorsports, over the years, and Petty Enterprises, they haven't been fielding competitive cars, and it looks like this year they are. And at Bristol, Almirola finished 3rd and Ambrose 5th. So although they're not in the top 12 in points right now, if they keep going at the current rate with these top 5s and top 10s, they're going to be a force to reckon with in Richard Petty Motorsports. And I'll tell you what, no team deserves it more than Richard Petty. And I say that because a lot of people say years ago, back in the early 60s and into the 70s, and he had all that money that he was getting from sponsors. He was the first guy to go out and market himself and come out and with sponsorships, and he was one of the first guys that showed up at a racetrack with a hauler and multi-car teams. Most guys that struggle with one, and then Richard Petty was showing up with two, and it was just, a lot of people didn't like him because he was spending the money, because he was getting it. STP gave him millions over there, millions and millions and millions. And then at Bristol, it was, the race was sponsored by STP, so the 43 car was just like it was years ago. The Petty blue, the Granatelli red, and the big white 43 in the sun. And, STP all over it. So it was good. I'm not here trying to give STP a free commercial, but it just looked good to see that. Again, I'm a Richard Petty fan, and, you could put anybody in Richard Petty's car, and I would be going for, I'd be rooting for him. You could put guys that I stuffed in a fence at Riverhead in a Richard Petty car, and I'd root for them. I'm not mentioning no names, I'm just saying. All right? He still has STP, but not as his primary sponsor. It's as a small deal. That was something that you always, STP, I think, as long as Richard Petty is racing, STP's logo will be on his cars. But again, Eric Almirola and Marco Ambrose they're just looking good. Let's see, Dale Earnhardt Jr., he was not happy, and he was frustrated during the final laps at Martinsville because Dale Jr. blamed lap traffic not giving him the inside lane because he felt he had a shot at winning. Now, the last time, and maybe it's me, but when you get the move over flag, which was being displayed, when you get the move over flag, my understanding is you go low and give him the outside. Dale felt he used up his tires on the outside, Dale Jr., and he felt that those cars should have went high to give him the low groove and the quicker way around. Sorry, buddy. I don't agree with that. You have no right to be upset with that. Okay? That's part of racing, dude. The slower traffic goes here. Drop down low, the leaders are coming. As Les Westerfield, when I worked the K&N series, and I would hear him say, when you got cars that were about to be lapped, to go, you see what's behind you, fellas, drop it down. He didn't name no numbers. He didn't name guys' names. Drop it down. He didn't say go to the outside because it's the quicker way around for people. Drop it down. Brian Vance in a modified tour, same thing. Okay? Drop it down. So I don't know how he could be upset over that. That's racing. And you're on a short track, you have 40-some more cars out on a racetrack. You know what? Towards the end, you're going to start lapping people, and you got to make it happen. Go to the outside. Make it happen. Because I know when they go to lap me up, I'm going to go to the inside. I'm going to point. Go. It's yours. Because you know that's going to happen. And Silverback, stop laughing. I could hear you laughing all the way here on Long Island. Anyway, Brad Keselowski, he felt he had a potentially winning car. But his chances disappeared early in a pit road accident when his car was taken to the garage and lost 31 laps. Keselowski was quoted as saying, because he was hit by Kurt Busch, he was quoted as saying, and I quote, and this was on NASCAR.com, "If you're going to be aggressive, wreck yourself, don't wreck me. I'll remember that when it's lap 50 and he needs a break and it's turned around in the wall, just like he tore my car up." Mr. Busch felt that Brad Keselowski overreacted. Now, did he overreact? Maybe. I know I'd be a little ticked if it was early in the race and somebody's over-aggressive, wrecked me, and I sat in the garage for 31 laps trying to get fixed. I'd be a little ticked. But sometimes, and I gotta blame the media here. You know the guy's upset. You know the guy's angry. The guy's frustrated. He's trying to get it back together. He made some comments. Later on he tweeted he didn't really mean that. You know what? But they run there with the mic, the camera, the boom. They run. Okay, but listen. And the guy says stuff. Guy says stuff in the heat of the moment. Is he really going to do this? Because you know, I don't know. Let the guy breathe. Let the guy, you know. Why do you even have to bring it up? You know, I don't know how I'm going to react. I don't know how I'm going to react where, let's say, we're racing on a TV event, and you know, I get sent into the fence by somebody because they're over aggressive because I gave them the outside, they wanted the inside, so they figure they're going to stuff me. You know, and here I am in the garage, and my crew is feverishly trying to fix the car, and DJ's rolling around on the chair on wheels because, you know, because I need him there, and that's what he has to do. And I'm not going to be a happy camper. You stick a microphone on my face in a situation like that, I might be a little ticked too. Now, if you wait till later on, we get a fix, I go out there, gain some spots, it's a whole different story. But like I said, I gotta blame the media for that. They stirred us up, just like at Daytona Battle at the Beach a couple of years with Mike Stefanik. That guy just lost a win, a big paying race, right? A big paying race. And he's trying, you could see in his face, he's steam coming out of his ears, his eyes are bugging out, jugular veins, you could see the pulsating. And all he could say was, that was, mm-mm. A lot of T-shirts are made and sold as a result of that, but that's what happens. And MyRacers.com hits the nail right on the head. The driver needs to go hide for a few minutes. Absolutely. You know, and whether he's hiding, sitting in his car where nobody can get into that portion, or he's somewhere else. But man, you know, the guy's hot. He's gonna say something. He's gonna say something. You know, and you can't the driver can't get angry at the media because there's a whole section. I think that's a P2 or P4 penalty if you do something to the media. It's, you know, under the old way it was Rule 12-4 or something, inappropriate behavior to the media. So because the media is big, you got to do the right thing. But the media shouldn't be chasing down these guys when they have a situation, you know. And they do. I don't think the media is supposed to like charge into the garage stall area when they're trying to fix a car. I don't think they belong there. I think there should be a yellow line at the door, and they need to get each team. I know each team has like a PR person, and that PR person needs to go like this, or they need to say, "Come in, let's talk." But you know, I mean, I don't know. I made a commitment to my team that I'm not going to say anything in the heat of the moment. Right, Silverback? That my crew chief is going to do all my talking. Because I know my sarcastic ways, I'm going to say something stupid. I know it. So I'm just going to walk in. Because you know, every once in a while, you know, I could hear it now. I'm going to hear on the radio, driver of the 83 and the crew chief of the 83, please report to the NASCAR trail. So I'm going to have to go. You know, I'm going to have to do my thing. I'm going to get a bottle of water. Just sit there and drink my water and let my, you know, like my attorney used to say, don't answer any questions. I'll answer the questions. You know, okay, you know. No, it's gonna be all fun. I think if they ever call me into the trail, it's gonna be pat me on the back. Hey, good job. You're doing good. You're getting better. You know. Anyway, and yeah, they shouldn't be. You know, like WJ saying, they shouldn't be allowed to go in that section. I mean, they're allowed in the garage area, but they shouldn't be able to go in the garage store where the drivers are trying to calm down, the team's trying to fix the car. You don't need to get the driver all fired up. He's fired up enough. And you got to understand something. This is their livelihood. And you know from the onset you got a good car. Now, does every driver think he has a good car when they're like, absolutely. Everybody thinks they could win. Even the guy in 43rd place took a provisional. Thinks he could win, or should. Because they wouldn't be out there if they didn't think they could win. Somebody said that to me once. I don't want to race if I can have a shot at winning. I don't know if I agree with that, but I do this for the fun. To me, driving it off the racetrack and putting it on the trailer with all four wheels and the Nerf bar still on it is a win. That's what I'm saying. But anyway, just shouldn't go out there and do that. Anyway, truck race, weather put it on to make that race a Sunday night event or a Sunday following at the Cup race. The top 10 went like this. Matt Crafton was the winner. Darrell Wallace Jr. second. Darrell, old Bubba, Freddie Kraft, spotted for him last year. Ben Kennedy was third. Johnny Sauter fourth. Ryan Blaney fifth. Timothy Peters was sixth. Seventh was Jermaine Garova Jr. Bill Rhodes was eighth. Ron Hornaday ninth. And Brian Ickler was 10th. I didn't get to see the truck race. And why? I couldn't find it on TV. I don't know why. I know I had to go do something, but when I went back to put it, I couldn't find it. So, whatever. I watched something else anyway, but I would have liked to watch the race. And the Cup, Kurt Busch was the winner. Jimmy Johnson second. Kurt Busch went by him like with 2 or 3 laps to go and just took off. And I'll tell you what, I like Jimmy Johnson. I like Hendrick Motorsports. But their domination at Bristol is insane. But second for Jimmy Johnson. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was third. Joey Logano fourth. Marcus Ambrose fifth, followed by Matt Kenseth in sixth. Kevin Harvick seventh. Eric Almirola was eighth. Clint Bowyer ninth. And Paul Menard rounded out the top 10. Top 5 in points as it looks right now. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is top the points with Matt Kenseth in second. Carl Edwards third. Jeff Gordon fourth. And Jimmy Johnson fifth. So that's where that's going. But I thought the Cup race was good. I thought I liked it. It held my interest. There were some, spots that it was kind of, okay, a little mundane, but that's what it is. And Kevin, thank you. I went to Channel 6. I have that channel, where I was has that channel. And, I guess, yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. Thanks, my raceness. It was. I don't know. I thought it was starting like an hour or two after. I thought it would end a little later. So I guess by the time I had something to eat and I had to go to the store for something, and came back. I couldn't find it. There was some other thing on, but oh well, I missed it. Because all I did Sunday was lay around. That's all I did because I was tired. I was really tired. Saturday was a very trying day for me. It was very physical. I was doing a lot of stuff, and I worked like a gazillion hours during the week, and whatever. That's a whole nother story. It's a whole nother story. What else we got going? The Formula One Malaysia Grand Prix was held in Malaysia. Lewis Hamilton was the winner there, driving a Mercedes. He's from England. Nico Rosberg from Germany was second. And Sebastian Vettel from Germany was third. And the driver standings, they have 19 races. After 2 races, Nico Rosberg, is first. Lewis Hamilton second. And Fernando Alonso third in the points. So I'm looking at some of these cars, the Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren. Wow. Also, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, Florida was held. Will Power was the winner, with Ryan Hunter Ray second, and Helio Castroneves third. So that's the point standings there. Power is first, Hunter Ray is second, and Castroneves was third. Let's see now. They did. It's kind of weird. I tried to watch both of those events, and I just couldn't get into it. I don't know. I couldn't. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know why. I watched that movie not too long ago, the one that was made way back when, and I guess it was in the 60s, about Formula One racing, and I think it was called Grand Prix. I think don't quote me on it, but it was different. It was racing back then was different, and then I saw that movie over the summer, Rush, which I thought was an awesome movie. It got very poor reviews and didn't win any awards, but I thought it was a good movie. It showed it was more about the inside part of racing, a part that a lot of people don't see. And as a race fan, and going to a racetrack, and I'll be the first. I'm not really a race fan. I've been involved with it behind the scenes I mean, going as a kid, I was, you're sitting there, I used to go for the, oh, look, there's a good crash. But then when in my teen years, when I wanted to become a driver and did, and in my later teens, I guess I was 18, 19, so it became, I saw what was behind the scenes was so much different. There was more to stock car auto racing than loading up your car, going through the pit gate, unloading, putting your stuff on, your helmet on, whatever, and going racing. I learned the hard way that there's more to racing than that. Because that's what people see. They see, what goes on in a racetrack. And I was telling a guy at Bristol, a guy who never went to a race before. I had gone, drove down to Bristol with Ken Hagley's dad, Grumpy, and we picked up his nephew on the way in Baltimore. The guy never went to a race in his life. He had no clue what was going on. And we're sitting there talking, and I said, because he made a comment, we had stopped to eat on the way back, and he said, I can't believe what goes on in the pit area, getting the prep for getting these cars to go on a racetrack. And I said, well, I'm thinking for every hour that you see in the garage area, there's probably 6 or 7 hours back home in the shop. And he looked at me, and Grumpy was like, maybe even more. And because there's more to putting a car together than just racing a car and then going out and racing it. And that's why, and how do I put this? As a driver, I'm going to go back to my driving days. You take every spare nickel you have, put it in your race car. You take every free moment you have and work on the race car. You sacrifice things, you miss family things, you miss birthday parties, you miss weddings, christenings, confirmations, funerals. Because your passion is your race car. And you work overtime at work because you take that overtime money and you go racing with it. Or as the case of a figure eight driver that I raced against that I had a lot of respect for, Bobby Lohr, who had a real good job during the day, a real suit and tie type of job during the day. But he pumped gas in a local gas station to pay for his race car at night. So you've done all of this. Your blood, sweat, and tears are all over that race car. And I mean your blood, sweat, and tears. And some knucklehead wrecks you. You're gonna be upset. Just saying. And there were many a night that happened to me. And I'd pull in and I'd tell my crew to fix it. Let's just get it rolling. I need to get out there. You never know. And I'd always say, hey, you never know. Somebody might drop out. We'll get another spot. Whatever. Get another $10 in the payoff. And they'd get me back out there. And my goal in that race was to get the guy that got me. And then in getting him, I wrecked myself more. You get towed in, and then you go meet up with the guy, have a chat. It's kind of tough, But over the years, you learn that it doesn't solve anything, it doesn't take anything. But what you have to do is you have to just pick your battles, and don't go off like an idiot, because then you get that UPS overnight letter on Wednesday that says you need to take a vacation, and I've gotten my share of those over the years. Dear Joe, you need to make a donation to NASCAR in the amount of $500 or $1,000 or whatever it was, and you need to pay that when you come back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And then you had to be a model citizen, because God forbid you messed it up, because you'd be sitting out. And the hard part was, I remember one of my fines I got was like $500 or something. And my sponsor said to me, hey, don't worry, I got the fine. I got it, no problem. Oh, man, no, this is a good sponsor. Inline Chiropractic, Dr. Mike Kirschbaum. He says, I'll pay the fine. All right, good. So now we go back racing, the fine and my suspension's over. And I go to get my sponsorship cut, and he goes, yeah, I wrote that check. I wrote it to NASCAR. I'm like, oh, okay. So you kind of learn, and looking forward to 2014 and beyond. I realize it's all about having a good time. It's all about having fun and camaraderie. I got a lot of people who've worked hard to put this car out for me, and a lot of people have worked hard to try to get a second car out to satisfy the request of NASCAR. So I can't be like a knucklehead. I gotta be professional. I gotta look good. I gotta play the part. I gotta smile. Okay, yeah, you're right. And what I do back at the shop or at home or on the ride home or in the trailer, that's a whole other story. But you got to understand that if think about this, and I don't know and I don't know Jay Slice is a baseball coach. He likes to coach baseball, and let's just say you go out there every night, you practice with your kid, batting practice, fielding, boom, bam, boom, 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 and you're giving up. You worked all day, you slammed dinner down, you go in the backyard a couple hours every night, and you're getting them ready, and then and you're going to the game, and some knucklehead pushes your kid down, and he gets hurt and he can't play. You're gonna be ticked off, Just like Kevin with the fire department, with the drill team stuff. Think about a drill team that's on its way to a state tournament. Some knucklehead cuts them off on the thruway, and the truck goes bashing into the median, and they don't make it. There's gonna be a lot of disappointed people. And so you're going to be frustrated, and that's going to happen. And I don't know. It is what it is. And we're going to take I think it's one of our last breaks. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll start to wrap this thing up. We'll be back.
Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or a flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely natural,
And organic.
but strong enough to cover all your lice removal needs while being safe and effective. Our professional technicians are specially trained with our exclusive proven technique to successfully comb out head lice. We come right to your home at your convenience.
Whenever you want us.
We bring everything needed to perform a successful and complete comb out while eliminating your head lice. And we leave you with our exclusive complimentary products to use for the next 10 days following our treatment.
For free.
Our technicians also check all family members who have been exposed to lice. Please visit us on our website today at gotlice.co or feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 646-257-0121.
Hey, we're back. Hey, again, Cher Lloyd coming to the Paramount Theater in Huntington, Long Island, New York, Sunday, April 6th at 8 p.m. And Enravio's got the tickets. Click on the contest tab and enter to win. Got to be in it to win it. Log on to ParamountNY.com for a complete listing of all their shows. And when you get there, tell them Enravio sent you. Yeah, those old movies, those old racing movies, I'll tell you. I love them. They don't make movies like that anymore. They just don't make movies like that anymore. Speaking of, I got to share a little story. It's close to coming and wrap it up, but I got to share this story. Years ago, back in the 70s, I was going to Riverhead on Friday nights, Riverhead Racetrack, Long Island. Friday nights, ice up on Saturdays and Sundays. And my girlfriend at the time, this is back, I'm going to say this is back in 78 maybe. Says, listen, I work. She worked nights. She goes, I only have 2 nights a week off. It's it's like Friday and Sunday, and Friday and Saturday. Come on, do you have to go to all 3? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I got to go. So we get a rain out. Nobody's more happy than her that we have a rain out on a Saturday night. We're not going to Ice Speedway. So I said, oh, you want to go to the movies? She's all excited. Yeah, let's go to the movies. That's great. Yeah, the movie will be good. All right, so let's go see Grease Lightning. Richard Pryor, Pam Grier, Clavon Little. It'll be funny. It's a funny movie. I knew what it was about. So we get to the movie, and in the beginning, it doesn't start off like a racing movie. It starts off like a guy gets out of the service, he's a bootlegger. All of a sudden, she realizes it's a racing movie. So we're sitting there, I'm into it. I'm watching this movie, my eyes sticking out. All of a sudden, she taps me on the knee. She can't get my attention because I'm glued to this movie. She goes, you want anything to eat from the concession stand? Like real quick, want anything to eat at the concession? No, I'm good. Watch the movie. All of a sudden, the movie ends. I look. She ain't there. All right. I grab my jacket. I walk out to the lobby. Maybe, there was a long line concession stand. Maybe she had to go to the ladies' room. I don't see her. I go looking out. I went to the old South Bay Theater in West Babylon. So they had this whole section of glass so you could look out into the parking lot of the old Billy Blake's little store. And I see where the car was parked. It was her car. Car's gone. And there's no cell phones back in those days. I had to walk home. I don't know, maybe 3 miles, whatever. I walk home. And I call her the next day. She don't take my call, whatever. Finally, a couple of days after she cools off, she goes, I asked you to miss a night of racing, so you get a rain out. What do? You take me to a racing movie? Wasn't good. This wasn't good. Just wanted to share that story with you. I think it's in one of my upcoming books. But anyway, that's just how it was. But yeah. Kevin basically was saying that happened to them. They were on their way to a tournament. They got wrecked. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. It really is. And I know the deal. I can remember years ago at Ice Speedway, I shared the duty of racing with. It was kind of funny. I blew my motor, and my buddy, my partner, Bill Stockett, he wrecked his car bad. He had a real good motor. His father put together a real nice piece for him. So we put his motor in my car. And the deal was we're going to rotate it. 1 week it's him, 1 week it's me, 1 week it's him, 1 week it's me. So we wrote it on the calendar. This is Bill's week, this is Joe's week, this is Bill's week, this is Joe's week. So the first week he goes out and races. He don't qualify, but that's his week. Final week's my week. We get rained out. Going to the calendar, the next week is his week. It's almost like he knew something. So he races, and then he wrecks, and we got to put it back together. So it's not back together there for my week. So after like the third week in a row of him racing and wrecking and the car not being ready on my weeks, I said, listen, dude, wait, we gotta redo this. It was like, what are we gonna do? Well, then he wrecked it so bad we didn't fix it. So, but you know, you get frustrated. You know, you get upset. I remember I went up to Walt Edson. I said, Walt, do me a favor. Can you suspend him for aggressive drive or something so I get to drive my race car? But I don't know. Walt Edson, he was the best. He was the best. I don't know, the good old days of Walt Edson, who banned me for life back in 1979. I was banned from ISIS Speedway for life. And when I humbly went in to talk to him at the end of the night, he killed a fly in his desk and he said, I'll see you next week. I said, I thought you said I was banned for life. He said, I didn't say whose life. It was the life of that fly. We'll see you next week. That's what he was like. That's what it was. You know, the good old days. The good old days. Now, but can't go backwards. You gotta go forwards. And that's what I'm trying to do, is go forwards. Go forwards in 2014. Try to make the peace with my NASCAR buddies. So that when, you know, when the time comes that, you know, and you know, it's funny, as a former NASCAR official, I don't want to be treated, how can I put this? I don't want any special treatment, or none. I want to be treated just like everybody else. I say that with tongue in cheek. No, I'm not kidding. Because they as a NASCAR official, we did try to treat everybody the same. And what changes that is the reaction of that driver, crew chief, owner. And you know, I have a good bunch of guys and a good support. You know, my team, we do this for fun. We have a good time. And again, I'm going to say this again, Wade Cole is the ultimate professional when it comes to racing. And I'm blessed to be able to hook up with a team like them. But anyway, I'm being told it's almost time to go. So I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. And this started as a miserable day, but it turned out to be a nice afternoon and evening. I want to thank everybody for coming on. Kevin, Long Island Need for Speed, don't forget to catch his show. WJ, Long Island, myracenews.com. What was I almost said somebody else. myracenews.com. Check them out. Check their sites out. It's all good. And I'll be at Thompson this weekend. I'll be helping the 33 and the 38 team, as I'm not qualified to race Thompson, but I will be there to support my team and do whatever I can. And hopefully we'll see some of you folks out there. So wherever your endeavors are going to bring you this week, be safe, have a good time, have fun, tell somebody you love them, God bless you all, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a good one.
InReview.com. InReview.com.